end of the day tomorrow, end of my day tomorrow, end of the afternoon.
Okay.
If you can send me a link to that, would be great. Around 5 o'clock my time. That is
Very good.
probably
That's perfect.
11 o'clock your time. So, Pavel, hello?
Yes, Donato.
Yes, I saw your plan. If I may suggest, can we keep our parts shorter? I mean, I think that 12 minutes is a lot. I think if we speak for 5 minutes, would be good enough to set the stage and then leave the floor to our many guests. What do you think?
I agree.
I don't want to speak for long. I prefer to come back later, but to have a shorter introduction and then talk maybe towards the end, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, I'd like to introduce the work that we have just completed around
Absolutely,
Atlas.
it's very important. Yeah.
Yeah, Atlas of Peaceful Futures. So I prepared a presentation.
You have a
I'll run it.
PowerPoint as well?
Yeah, I run it very fast, but I just wanted to kind of get
Okay,
get the
Very.
opportunity.
no. That's very useful. I will not have that much to. I mean, I could, but we are not on yet. No.
No, we're not. We are still 5 minutes
So
away.
what I was thinking is, if you want, I can say a few words also about the peace offensive and what we have set up in Maribor, and then set the stage in terms of, and then give the floor to you. You will speak longer than me, and I will maybe draw some conclusions at the end, if that's all right with you.
Yes, excellent,
You can
excellent.
also draw conclusions. It's not but I mean, we can. You can allot me some few minutes more if you want towards the end.
We still are waiting for peace.
Philippe is joining, so Darlene is not coming. David, is you that you are?
No, she is coming. She is coming.
This guy. So we talk
Yeah.
together, or is only?
No, she is. She's entirely capable of talking by herself,
I know
and
that.
that's
I
her
know
plan.
You don't want to overshadow your
Correct.
partner in crime, and
Yep.
not in crime, in peace, not in
In
crime, but
peace.
You're
My
welcome.
partner
in
in
peace.
peace.
Your partner in peace. So, so she will speak for herself. Oh, Judy is there. You see, Judy's there.
Yes, Judy is there. Hello,
Yes.
Judy. Thank you for
I'm so
joining.
happy that Judy is there. Uh, I wanted her badly here. That's because she introduces this subject of ecological, environmental issue that today is the day to do it. So great,
Thank you for inviting me.
So I have to go and get a sip of water. I mean, all of a sudden I'm thirsty. I'll be right back, and then whenever you want, we start. Yeah.
We should be in 2 minutes. Should be starting. We can give people 2 or 3 minutes also after top of the hour to flow in. Judy, where are you speaking from?
I'm in the UK. I'm in the Cotswolds, about an hour and a half outside London. Where are you?
Currently in Ankara, traveling.
Wow.
I'm based in Belgrade, in Serbia. Between Belgrade and Buenos Aires, actually. I've spent several months in Buenos Aires now and back in Europe.
What interesting combination.
Yeah. I was always inspired by the work that your team is doing. I've seen it for a while, and yeah, it's
Thank
very, very important message and very,
Thank you.
yeah. I can see Darlene is here. Darlene, welcome. Good to see you.
Hello,
Hello, hello.
everyone.
So we practically have all panelists apart from Peace, who is speaking from East Africa. So I hope her internet will be fine and she'll be able to join, because sometimes that is a problem.
Mm.
And we'll wait for 2 or 3 more minutes just to let people.
Hello, Darlene.
Oh, I can
How
see
are you?
Hello,
there.
Donato.
Luca, how are you
Peace.
doing? Survived the opening?
Oh, I'm doing well. Thank you very much. How are you, Donata?
Fine,
I
thank
thought it
you.
was nice. How did you enjoy it?
I think it was a great event. It was a fantastic event. I leave it up to you to remind us a bit the sense of our operation, a bit more broader, and maybe you can touch upon some concrete examples also of work to be done. And Janani, of course, she is there. So we have already a speaking order, Pavel.
Yes.
That is, if you remind us.
Um, so we'll have. I think we can start
But
with
the
you,
speaker
Donata.
is also here. He's also here. Can we start?
Yes, Peace is also with us. Yes, hello, Peace. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm glad the internet works. I know that sometimes it's. All right, shall we start? Um, Welcome to this seminar, which is a joint event organized by World Academy of Art and Science and Learning Planet Institute. And we put a bold title, and it's an invitation to all of us to think of this as a possibility of making wars obsolete, finding pathways to peaceful futures. So we come together today on the International Day of Nonviolence, which is also the birthday of Gandhi. And of course, Gandhi as a figure has been extremely inspiring and in a way path-breaking with his path of nonviolence, showing the possibility that massive social change can occur in different way. And effectively, even if we speak about processes such as decolonization of India, nowadays the largest country in the world, it is possible to accomplish it in a non-violent way. So this can serve to us as a beacon, as an inspiration for the possibility of the future that will, where systemic violence and active violence involving different nations or sometimes different ethnicities can become obsolete. Wars, of course, have been with us for millennia with humanity, but we can also think of many other social institutions and social forms of interaction, such as slavery, that have been very persistent throughout human history, but nowadays they have been eradicated. So the invitation to all of us to think, how can we move into a world where wars become obsolete, where structural violence becomes obsolete, and we find more harmonious ways of coexistence with each other. So I'd like to invite, first of all, my dear friend and an amazing leader, Donata, who is also the founder of Global Peace Offensive Initiative, to speak a little bit about the initiative and the launch of the global center of the initiative that has just occurred in Maribor. Donata, over to you.
Pavel, thank you. Thanks to all friends and colleagues who are with us today. You said International Day of Nonviolence in the name of Mahatma Gandhi, of course, uh, and that's a legacy upon us. But I think that today we also have to honor the legacy of another trailblazer, another pioneer of modern time that just left us. I refer to Jane Goodall, not only because is someone who taught us all how to relate better with nature, with wildlife, but also because she left us this important message: work in harmony, be in harmony with yourself and with nature. And the fact that uh, she was a prominent leader, a prominent woman leader, also brings us here together with an important representation of women leaders that I'm very happy that could join us today. Because again, the relation with nature, harmony, the environment is fundamental for peace, is the foundation of peace itself. The role of women also need to be remarked, as they are certainly the most effective antidote to wars, to terror in general, to violent extremism as well. And the kind of the uh, importance that we need are now reaffirming on the day of nonviolence is the importance of working together in order to fight back violence in all forms, including including not only, but including incitement, including the political extremism that right now is inflammatory, as probably not witnessed in recent history. But the kind of hate propaganda that we are assisting to these days is certainly not conducive to peace. So in any way, I'm sure that the people that are attending this workshop, this seminar today, agree that we have to stop all forms of racism, of hate propaganda that is germinating in front of us from all sides of the political spectrum, and all sides of the wall, unfortunately. So this is necessary if you want, as you said, to make war obsolete. There is no other way to do it if we do not eradicate hatred and exclusion based on race, on colors, on sex, on beliefs, and any stereotype definition that we can think of. So personally, I was also a witness of terrible events in history, not that recent anymore, but I'm referring to the genocide in Rwanda. I'm referring to the conflict in former Yugoslavia, and that is over 30 years ago. But I cannot forget uh, the kind of message that remains after these wars uh, in terms of the dignity of people that needs to be reaffirmed at all stages, and that remains, in our eyes when we saw the survivors, when we saw the houses burned, the people, left without anything, and millions that died in those conflicts, certainly in Rwanda, and many thousands in former Yugoslavia. I'm referring to that because I think that only 30 years, not more than that, passed, but I still have in my ears the memories of that kind of propaganda, of the propaganda that, for instance, Radio Milcolin, the Thousands Hills in Kigali, was echoing in the minds and instilling that kind of hatred in the minds of people that then committed genocide. So if we do not really take consciously, the upon ourselves the kind of consciousness of the risk that we are taking, obviously we cannot change our reality. Now, the kind of initiative that we are into nowadays, and here I switch to the real topic of my short introduction, is the need to change mind shifts and reversing discrimination with a system that we call the Global Peace Offensive, that is basically an initiative to propose a proactive dialogue among different stakeholders, among representatives of the civil society. Is a citizen diplomacy initiative that is mainly driven by the academic world, but not exclusively, because we have many civil society representatives and components in order to shape a different vision that brings us to a greater awareness of the existential threats that we are confronting, and propose a reverse in the narrative, and that's why we call it offensive. We could have called it counter-offensive, in order to postulate this dialogue with the participation of all sides of in all sides of conflicts, in all sides of our the kind of conflicts that we are experiencing nowadays. So our emphasis is principally on cultural, scientific, economic, educational, and environmental diplomacy. The grassroots level is of particular importance, but we're also developing partnership, as you know well. In fact, the institutions that are represented today are also signatory of our vision document for this offensive in terms of peace, with institutional partners that share the same purpose. And these iterative dialogues that we are promoting, that we will promote more in the months to come, in the years to come, through the meeting of the coming together, I would like to say, of different components of our society, also developing a specific diagnostic tool. Why that? Because we think that early warning is extremely important. We have to tackle conflicts at the nascent stage as much as possible. And we have to find mechanisms to analyze the situation from the very beginning and report on these new crises or crises under the ashes that unfortunately keep recurring. Under our radar screen, we have 170 conflicts nowadays ravaging in the world. Not just one, not just two, not just three. We are a sort of planetary initiative. And we want to create a peace effect with this coming together of different facets of our society, in order to reverse tensions, to reduce tensions all over, with cooperation, with international cooperation, with local cooperation, and affirm the fact that we have one single principle that brings us together, that is human security. Reaffirming human security for all, it means also maintaining the principle that it is in our core interest to take care of human needs, of human aspirations, of values, of also integrity, independence, that will make it possible for us to handle these initiatives all over. So with these words, I I want to reaffirm the fact that again we have now last week, Thursday last week, we have set up an office in Maribor that brings together the expertise of the scientists of the World Academy of Art and Science, of the European Academy of Science and Art, and of the Alma Mater University of Maribor. We have a representative of that university with us today, who will tell us more also of the initiatives that are in our pipeline, let's say, with this kind of dialogues that we can facilitate through cultural and scientific diplomacy in different places, starting from where we can make the difference and where we know that people can come together and again revert the tendency of heightening tensions, but trying actually to diffuse tension and bring solutions. So a solution-oriented initiative where people talk about building trust, building confidence, and therefore building sustainable peace. With these words, I'll leave it to you, Pavel. Maybe you will tell us also about your initiative that we want to know more about. It is this atlas that certainly is an instrument that we can use throughout in our efforts of delivering according to the peace offensive principles.
Thank you very much, Donato. And indeed, one of the topics that we would like to present today is the newly developed tool that I hope many people working in peace building initiatives, especially civic initiatives, will find useful. We call it Atlas of Peaceful Futures Practices, and it's part of the joint initiative launched at Learning Planet Institute in Paris. We have a representative of the Learning Planet Institute, Olivier, that I also would like to invite to our discussion at some point later today. But the Learning Planet Institute is a global institution working with UNESCO and committed to empowerment of younger generation as change makers around the world. And jointly with a think tank that I lead called Global Education Futures, we created an initiative which actually is not only about Atlas, it's also about leadership training, it's about sharing knowledge, it's about fostering networks of peace builders around the world. It's called Peaceful Futures. So I'll make a short presentation of the work that we are doing and where it stems from. And I hope it will also frame the discussion for the rest of the conversation with our esteemed panelists. So first of all, I want to acknowledge, Donato, you mentioned the terrible conflicts that were happening in the last 30 years. I want to acknowledge that in 2024 and 2025, we may witness the peak of conflicts across the globe since the end of World War II. It's now over 70. I mean, there are various ways to calculate what should go into the statistics. So some say that over 130 conflicts are happening. Well, depending on the scale, what you consider a conflict. But let's put it this way. All agree that the number is highest in terms of conflicts, and we can see it in the news. The conflict between Israel and Palestine, the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, the recent conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan, and many others, Ethiopia, Sudan, Yemen, it's continuing, it's happening, and very unfortunately. And what I see as a bigger problem in this context is that wars today are different from wars that were happening 100 years ago or several hundred years ago because of the lethal potential of weapons that are being used and resources being involved. And the research shows that actually with every war, more and more lethal and more devastating technologies are being deployed. which means that if we really spiral, which the risk we need to avoid, but if we really spiral into a global conflict of the 21st century, comparable with World War II, that may be the end of humanity. In the words of Einstein, he said, I don't know what will be the weapons of World War III, but World War II, people will fight with stones and sticks. Um, Maybe not even that. Maybe the war will be as devastating that it will eradicate humanity. We need to bear that risk in mind. We also need to realize that peace is not only the absence of war. Peace is a strategic condition for humanity to thrive. If we think about scientific collaboration, if we think about economic collaboration or cultural collaboration, they all are dependent on open borders, on possibility of moving freely around the world, on sharing knowledge freely, collaborating with each other, not seeing people on the other side of the screen or the other side of the border as your enemies. So that's a fundamental condition, and for many years it has been taken for granted, unfortunately. The growth, the globalization has been taking for granted the presence of global peace, which is not guaranteed. And right now, looking into future, there are many factors. I would highlight just one because many people think about what that kind of risk can bring in. Climate change is disrupting ecosystems all over the world and creating conditions for human displacement, not in terms of thousands, but in terms of tens and hundreds of millions that will find in the coming decades will find the traditional territories uninhabitable because of climate conditions, because of droughts and many other factors, because of soil elimination that will stop agricultural production. So this risk, which can involve hundreds of millions of people, will inevitably trigger different forms of conflicts, more massive than what we witness today. So we need to anticipate it. We need to prepare for these kinds of risks today and not tomorrow. And the idea of making wars obsolete comes from Buckminster Fuller, who said 60 years ago, basically, that either war is obsolete or humans are. So but he was not alone. There were many other thinkers that were thinking along the same lines, that only through making wars obsolete, we can make humanity truly evolve to its next stage of existence. Now, the question, how can everyone contribute to this? It's not just the business of governments. It's not just the business of large organizations. It's the task of civic societies. It's the task of cultural leaders. The problem is that when wars unfold, civic societies frequently find themselves helpless, as we've seen with many recent conflicts. That unfortunately, the role of civic society as instigator of conflict can be huge. As once the conflict unfolds, unfortunately, civic society does not find too many tools. But if we think about prevention, if we think about eradication of hatred, Donaita, as you said it, that needs to occur before the actual conflict unfolds. So preventing wars, learning how to live in peace with each other, that's the task. It's not only about stopping conflicts, it's about creating what some of our colleagues call positive peace, the peace as way of harmonious coexistence in the humanity. So from perspective of Peaceful Futures, which is a project we run since 2022, and initially it was a series of forward-looking sessions, vision-building sessions with hundreds of experts from all walks of life, from diplomacy, peace building, technological innovation, and many other sectors. They all converge in the idea that it's a complex process. There is no silver bullet in solving the problem of war. It's a complex interaction of many factors, many groups within society learning together how to live more harmoniously and more peacefully. And most importantly, it cannot be orchestrated top down. So we look to our global leaders to foster peace. That's wrong, because the peace comes from each of us. We cannot just assume that whoever that name is, either UN or some presidents, will come and resolve tensions. These tensions can only be resolved if there is civic movement, if there is public movement building the foundation. And so, from perspective of peaceful futures, we were talking about three levels or three types of peace interplaying with each other. So the peace, as we know, the negative peace, as some people call it, absence of wars, is most evident indicator that we have peace in our society. It's about removing non destructive methods of conflict resolutions, including wars in society. Now, underlying that is systemic violence that is present in many societal institutions, including systems of governance, economy, and many more. Because, as we know, the majority of conflicts that are happening now around the world have economic roots or cultural roots. And if we don't look into those roots, we're not able to remove the reasons why the war is happening. And even if those are removed, people frequently don't know how to live in peace with each other. So they fall back on more traditional ways of resolving conflicts on micro scale and macro scale. So learning how to be in harmonious state of being, learning the peace of mind and peace of coexistence is the ultimate foundation of peace. And as we understand, these levels are in interplay. They are setting conditions for each other and they are establishing possibility to foster the other forms of peace. I will not go into roadmap of peaceful futures. It's a document that I'll share links to in the end. But the idea is that if we move towards peaceful futures, it's multi-stream activity that needs to evolve, rebuilding democratic institutions, changing our economies towards more regenerative and inclusive formats, healing the roots of violence, including the intergenerational trauma, and even looking into our socio-technical systems, including AI, asking ourselves, how can AI foster peace and not continue the path of destruction? From this perspective, the moment that we are finding ourselves in, the 2025 and the coming decade, is in many regards decisive because tensions within society increase. The rise of new technological revolution, including AI transformation, will trigger a lot of hidden conflicts in our society, transforming geopolitical realities. They will bring or reveal many tensions that were maybe hidden by previous geopolitical arrangements. These are things we need to deal with urgently, and not only on the political level, but on the civic and cultural level. And then that if we really move beyond that, which I hope we will, that opens up a possibility for humanity to begin reprogramming our civilization fundamentally, looking at wars as something that is an atavism that needs to be removed. And how can we remove systemic violence and wars from our society? There are all tools that we have, and the possibility is there. So, from perspective of our work, the next 50 years can become a journey into a new era of humanity where peace prevails. So Atlas of Peaceful Futures is a tool that helps us understand that we all have tools for that. It's a map with typology of practices. It's a compass that gives us concrete case studies, what to do, what can be done. And it's an invitation that invites us to look into what civic leaders can do right now and how they can join this movement. We looked into over 100 practices that foster peace in different domains and different levels, starting with inner peace or interpersonal peace, the state of being, and all the way up to changing governance systems, civic agency, and creating transformed economies. And of course, education and art as essential components. And from Atlas perspective, we try to look at what we call 3 levels of engagement. So we want to give tools to someone who is just an individual activist, trying to make sense what can be done, even if I'm alone or I have a small group of friends I can act with. Then if I build up some foundation, I already have an organization, a small NGO, what kinds of actions can I do? It's a level 2 types of work. And if I build up my own ecosystem or my own movement, I still have a lot of opportunities to think about. So the idea is that we expand the palette of opportunities to each peace builder in their own domain First of all, recognizing I'm contributing to peace. Second, I have many more tools than I am currently aware of that I can use. And here are the examples of what people are doing. And then we also, in the Atlas, try to give some deep dive case studies. We look into 15 cases of different organizations that are trying to foster peace around the globe. I will not go any further, but want to highlight that one of them, Nile Girls Forum leader, is with us today. So she will speak about their experience in Africa. And if you look into Atlas, this to me is more like an inspiration. Look at people that started, there is a history of their journey. It's very similar to what you do. There is no difference between you and them, but they are doing this as a systemic practice now. So maybe within your heart is also a systemic practice and you can bring it into the world. These are the links. I will also put them in the chat afterwards. And the Atlas is an open invitation. Donata, I hope that together with your center, we will find ways to populate many, many more practices that will inspire people to look into these tools and share them and share practices so we build up a community of practice of peaceful future practitioners. And that's my inspiration. I want to end with this. Martin Luther King, of course, is another incredible peace builder of the past that says, let's find a way in which peace represents a sweeter music, a cosmic melody that is far superior to the discourse of war. And I think that's invitation to all of us. How can we find that sweeter music of harmony within us and between us?
Fabulous. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Pavel, for this excellent presentation. That is an inspiration indeed, but is also a resource by its own. So and as you said, we can populate it further, we can use it, we can expand it. Of course, taking into account that there are always a multiplicity of initiatives, actors, but that, as you exemplified clearly, they can come together. So there are different levels of participation, of inclusiveness, let's say, but if we work together, we can change things. And what I like most of your presentation is these time frames that you have indicated. I mean, now we are at a time that will be a particular challenge for humanity, but then let's hope that we will be this reprogramming into a better future, a new era for humanity, as you said, and then later on that we will really have the opportunity to live in harmony with ourselves, with the environment, with a truly regenerative economy and society, and with human security for all. I don't know how you intend to keep on going. We have many contributions, so you are the moderator of the session, and up to you to to pass the floor to the next speaker with your introduction. Thank you, Pablo.
Thank you, Donata. And so we when we're thinking about this session, we were envisaging two parts. We wanted to actually highlight two systemic initiatives that were just presented to the world, Global Peace Offensive Center and Atlas of Peaceful Futures as tool set for all of us. But we then want to actually open up a conversation. We'll start with panel and 5 speakers that we have. We'd like to actually have an opportunity maybe for other speakers in the room. There are some amazing people joining us to also have 1 or 2 minute contributions to the flow of conversation. So let me first begin with a group that we invited as panelists. And we have a range actually of practitioners. We have people that are working on systemic initiatives and diplomacy. We have people that work on environmental justice as an incredibly important factor of peace building. People that work on education for peace and research in this field. So let's hear from all of them and also very different geographies. And actually, I would like to begin with Janani Ramanathan, who is also the Secretary General of World Academy of Art and Science, the partner of this event today. And Janani, also, in a way, your work represents India. You work a lot locally with different civic groups. So we'll begin with a question that I think will be central to our conversation today, not only how to make wars obsolete, but how to change our approaches to peace building, why traditional approaches currently may be not sufficient, and what needs to evolve, and where we need to put our priorities. Janani, please, over to you.
Thank you, Pavel, and thank you, Donato, for bringing us all together to talk about this subject. We often hear how our education system or multilateral system is no longer suited for the present times, that our education system was, designed for the first industrial revolution, and we cannot continue using it 200 years later. One of the main complaints about the UN is that it reflects the world as it was in 1945. 18 years later, it needs reform to remain relevant. The same principle works for peace. Our approach to peace building and our strategies for peace too must change with the times. Non-state actors and cyber disruption and drones and AI powered and precision guided weapons have changed the idea of war and war fronts. So our approach to peace too must evolve. Now, having said that, fundamental human needs remain the same. We seek freedom from fear, want, and dignity in their various forms. So, of all the different ways in which we can approach peace building, a fundamental one is to seek the root causes and address them. We've spent far too long putting out these individual fires. If we look at the root causes of this global social turbulence, we will know what it is that we're really up against. And as simple and logical as it seems, we need to begin with the right diagnosis before we set out to tackle the issues. So the starting point must be research and right understanding. When we do that, we will not blame this one leader or that one political party for all the problems and feel helpless. Instead, if we ask ourselves how that leader came to power or this party thrives, find the sense of insecurity among people that they pander to, and address the cause of that insecurity, that makes for a more effective solution. Ironically, this country of Mahatma Gandhi, whose birthday we're celebrating as the Day of Non-Violence, International Day of Non-Violence today, has seen a major war in nearly every decade of its independent existence. India and Pakistan had a border conflict in May this year, which mercifully lasted only a few days. That military operation was called a work from home war by some sections of the press. People in both countries were fighting on social media. The actual fighting on the battlefront seemed merely incidental. That ended in a few days, but the animosity is continuing online and in other places where war has been going on for way too long. We see the news gradually moving away from the front pages. Technology live streams war to our screens 24/7. And in a way, because of this, the rest of the world becomes inured to the real human tragedy. Instead, if we can use the same technology to bring people together, if possible, even those from the opposing sides, and share inspiring, uplifting stories of people, we can revive our collective humanity. Like the peace offensive, we need to counter this live stream of war with a counter narrative that's about peace, healing, and hope. These stories can be from the present. History can also offer much. Gandhi had his own way of tackle violence when there was rioting between Hindus and Muslims. He went to the places where there was very, very violent fighting and spoke to the people there. What must be the moral stature of a man who can walk into a place of bloodshed unarmed and talk people into giving up violence, even more remarkably, he went on fasts during communal riots. And rioters stopped the violence because Gandhi was going hungry. There must be something to a leader who can have this influence over angry mobs and continue to inspire millions of people worldwide. We can use our technology to, disseminate these stories to our youth, to everyone. Another remarkable study is Jean Monnet, one of the founders of the European Union. Monet must have had a lot of courage to even speak in his country, France, about cooperating with Germany after World War II. His method, it reversed the traditional order of cooperation by prioritizing economic integration over political integration. This, by pooling French and German coal and steel resources, Monet ensured that war between them would not only be unthinkable but materially impossible, in his words. This practical binding cooperation cultivated interdependence and trust. So to build peace, we do have the knowledge needed, just as you showed in the atlas. The resources to translate the knowledge into action are there. Technology that facilitates this translation is also available now. And clearly, we have the people who wish to contribute to peace. And we need to get together and act. And I believe this meeting now that has brought together all of us, speakers, participants, and our organizations, is one such step. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, Janani, and thank you also for bringing the story of Mahatma Gandhi into our attention field, because yes, it's also, I think it's both the movements and the role of leaders that serve as moral compass that we really miss in the world. I'm thinking, do we really have a leader of the caliber of Mahatma Gandhi these days, or anyone that was inspired by him, like Nelson Mandela? Unfortunately, leaders of today are looking in the opposite direction, unfortunately. So how can we learn more? How can we foster more the type of leadership that Mahatma Gandhi showed to us? Thank you. And I would like to invite our good friend and collaborator, Peace Monica Pimer. Peace, you also have a beautiful name that is in the name of our meeting today. And you are accomplishing a lot of work in a very challenging region where around Nile conflicts continue to occur. And like Donata pointed out today, you are working with women, young women, in Nile's Growth Forum. So what's your perspective? What are the most important things that need to change in our approaches to peace building to address the challenges of today, and to really go across this decisive decade ahead of us?
Thank you so much, Pavel. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
All right, great. And thank you so much for giving me this platform. I lead the Nile Girls Forum, and coming from a region in northern Uganda that has really gone through the Lord's Resistance Army conflict that was there for over the last 20 years, it's a conversation that we believe it's very timely, and conversations around peace building, unfortunately, do not get the attention and the space that it deserves. And also, just before I delve into this conversation, just about 3 weeks ago, the International Criminal Court opened its war crime case against the Ugandan rebel leader, Joseph Kony, and it's ICC's first ever confirmation of charges hearing without the accused present. And for us in Uganda, this is a step to justice, would say, because we have very many unanswered questions, but also that really pushes us to the conversation that we are having on how can we change our approach, because I mean, this is a case that has been going on for, it's coming to now 30 years. And we do not see that any different from the genocide that happened in Rwanda, that is our neighboring country. And in terms of our work with peace building, I believe the current peace building model tolerates war as an inevitable failure instead of designing systems where war is structurally and socially absolute. So in our perspective, but also from the work that we do and our contribution to the Atlas, our recommendations are really around one, how do we institutionalize peace building? I'll give you an example. We do oftentimes say it's important for us to have peace education. And yet, very many times, if you to look through different countries' education curricula, it never talks about peace building as an integral part of the content that is being taught to students. But also, we do realize that for conflict to happen, this is something that keeps on carrying forward from the younger generation. Sometimes it's from the cultural perspectives, but also, like we said, the economic aspect. And so how do we have these conversations right from the start? And that is how we really need to integrate peace education in our national curriculums. But also, interestingly, about 2 weeks ago, I had an engagement. And during that engagement, we were having conversations around ending violence against women and girls. And when we had this conversation, we're trying to see how best does this conversation translate to the national policies that Uganda is developing. You'd be amazed that not everyone actually knows what peace building is. So most of the times, you'd realize that people look at peace only from the perspective of, maybe a war breaking out. And this conversation is really important because currently Uganda is going through the campaign season for the presidential elections. And so for a country like Uganda that doesn't even have a national action plan on youth peace and security, it's worrying because oftentimes the young people are at the forefront of violent conflict, but also issues that deter them from these conversations. We still get to see that they're being pushed on the side, but also how can we scale up localized and youth-led early warning systems integrated into national conflict response frameworks? So it's really important for us to also celebrate the victories across continents, across countries. Can we, for example, look at Rwanda that has already integrated peace education in their curriculum? One of the people that we engaged with recently was the Aegis Trust organization in Rwanda that really pushed for this to be integrated. And so if we can have those best practices documented, but also celebrated, I believe it would be an interesting way of how we can make sure that we are just not only looking at peace building as something that is on its own, but also integrating it. And one of the things we have also done as an institution is to integrate peace education in sexual reproductive health, in climate conversations, so that we are not just talking to ourselves, so that we get these conversations in rooms where people do not even know how peace building relates to the different thematics that they work on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peace, and thank you for the work that you are conducting in one of areas that really needs this kind of work. You are a big inspiration to many of us. Thank you for your doing this. And now I would like to, as Donata pointed out, we have a really inspiring panel with mostly women present, and Peace, you just shown that women can lead the way. But I want to turn to a single man in this panel who is also a great academic leader, Luca, who is one of people behind the establishing of the center in Maribor. Luca, from your academic and research perspective and your work as educator, what do you think needs to happen? How do we need to evolve our approaches to peace building now?
Dear Pavel, thank you for your kind words. Thanks to Donato for the invitation and initiative. Dear colleagues, I'm very glad to be able to talk with you all today. I want to structure, let's say, this short intervention in two parts. So in the first part, I will talk about where we are and where we could go perhaps towards a brighter future. And in the second part, I want to take on what Donato emphasized previously, so to shortly present what role this newly established Global Peace Offensive Center could play. What small piece of the puzzle it could be, this center that is a brainchild of our dear friend Donato. So first, we live in a world on fire. People of goodwill who have ears, who have eyes, as I believe that all of us gathered here today are, we can see this. And we are leaning on treaties, high-level negotiations, even crisis mediation, government interventions, and so on. So these are, let's say, the firefighters of conflict. They do douse the flames, but they don't install smoke detectors or they don't rebuild safer homes. So the violence is stopped at the moment, to echo what has already been said to some degree, but then it reemerges. If we look at Uppsala conflict data program, over 50% of conflicts since 2000 were reignited within 5 years. Now we have AI warfare barreling towards us, so to speak, drones that can decide to kill without human oversight, and so on, populism, climate problems, and so on. So the old playbook, summit, sanctions, diplomacy, it is not fast enough for this world. Let's say an autonomous weapon will be able to strike before even diplomacy starts to talk. So what can we do? Obviously, we cannot rely on governments. They can do their part. We cannot rely only on international organizations. They do their part, obviously. But the missing piece, I believe, is autonomy. So the power given to individuals to shape their life with dignity and voice. So war will thrive where people are silenced, excluded, stripped of agency. So what is the answer then? The answer is a bottom-up approach. So to spread the message, to bring in into peace building people of goodwill, who I believe are a lot of them everywhere, especially young people all over the world from diverse cultures, and to give them hope, to give them strength, to give them courage, to encourage them to fight for peace. So this brings me to the second part. The Global Peace Offensive Center was founded last week in Maribor, a very small town in a very small country, initiated by World Academy of Art and Science and our dear friend Donato, also with support of European Academy of Sciences and Arts, which joins several thousand scholars, 38 Nobel Prize winners, and with institutional support from our university. So the idea is just this positive piece. It is a center that aims to mobilize the capacities of all fields of education, research, NGOs, to strengthen local, regional, and global peace. So to find people and act as a hub where people, organizations, networks can join, which can then help to build this bottom-up peace through personal responsibility, through giving people hope for a better future, which I believe we can achieve. It's not easy, but we can do it. So just this small intervention from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Luca. And I wish the center all success in its evolution. You are in the beginning of the journey, but I hope it will have a lot of impact. I would like to turn now to Judy Foster. Judy, your work on stopping ecocide, I think, highlights a very important dimension of the conflict that humanity now has. It's not only conflict with between us as people, but we have a fundamental conflict with nature, and we are nature. We are part of nature. So we have this even more fundamental conflict. So making peace with other species, making peace with planet, is perhaps a fundamental condition for everything else. And your work on stopping ecocide is highlighting this dimension. So how do you see the need for evolution of peace building work that needs to happen? And how do you see your own work in this context?
Thank you, Pavel. Thank you. It's an honor to speak to you today and to bring the perspective of my organization, Stop Ecocide International, into this conversation about peace. So when we're talking about peace building, we're often picturing, as we've just talked about, treaties, diplomacy, disarmament, negotiations. And when we speak about war, we often focus on the human suffering, and quite rightly so. But of course, there is another dimension to war that is often overlooked, and that is the damage done to the natural world itself, that ultimately we all depend upon anyway. Many of today's conflicts around the world are either directly or indirectly linked to the environment. In fact, the root causes of many conflicts, the drivers of instability, are often ecological. When ecosystems collapse, when rivers are poisoned, when forests are destroyed, people are forced to leave their homes, tensions rise, and violence often follows. This mass destruction of nature is not only a consequence of conflict, it can also be a cause. At Stop Ecocide International, we're leading the global initiative to make ecocide, severe and widespread destruction of nature, a crime under national and international law, alongside genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and crimes of aggression. The idea is simple. If we want to foster conditions for peace, we need to protect the earth. Ecocide drives mass displacement of populations, fuels resource competition, and deepens instability. We have seen it again and again. In Darfur, as just one example, prolonged drought and desertification intensified competition over scarce land and water, fueling the conflict that displaced millions. In many parts of the world, particularly in parts of Africa and Latin America, the struggle to control mineral-rich forests and lands has prolonged cycles of violence for decades. And as the climate crisis deepens, shrinking glaciers, rising seas, and failing harvests are forecasted to create new potential triggers for conflict worldwide. So our premise is that we need to change the rules, and we need to change culture to make it just as bad, wrong, and illegal to destroy an entire ecosystem as it is to destroy a people, because ultimately it all leads to the same thing. Quite simply, if we destroy nature, ultimately we destroy ourselves. One vital condition to support peace building is legal recognition that mass environmental destruction is a serious crime. Why? Because governance and accountability must have real teeth. Right now, leaders and corporations can cause catastrophic harm to ecosystems with impunity, even though such damage does fuel conflict through displacement, scarcity, and competition for resources. Once ecocide law is in place, if leaders, corporations, and key decision makers know that they can be held personally, criminally responsible for decisions they make that leads to the devastation of ecosystems, they will think and act differently. If their personal freedom is in jeopardy, if their share price or company's reputation is damaged, they will make different decisions. As a British barrister said to me recently, the law can be used as a carrot or a stick, but you only have to use the stick a few times before the carrot takes effect. And we are making progress. The EU is currently legislating for crimes comparable to ecocide. In 2024, Vanuatu, Fiji, and Samoa formally proposed ecocide law to the International Criminal Court, with the DRC subsequently declaring support. Several governments, including Argentina, Peru, Mexico, the Dominican Republic, are actively considering proposals of law, while Belgium has already brought in legislation. And just a couple of months ago, the recent African Environment Ministers Conference, the AMCEN conference in Nairobi, agreed to make ecocide law a key priority for the continent. But this is not just about legal accountability. It is also about shifting culture and creating a taboo around mass destruction of nature. Law shapes what societies value. Law evolves as our consciousness evolves. By recognizing ecocide as a crime, we affirm that mass damage to nature is not acceptable, not inevitable, and not beyond our control. Just as we now view slavery or genocide as intolerable, future generations should see ecocide as unthinkable. And in terms of economics, ecocide law shifts incentives. After all, no bank will want to invest in a potentially illegal project, nor insurers be willing to insure it. Instead of short-term profit from destructive practices, it will encourage flows of investment towards regenerative, sustainable solutions that build stability rather than conflict. So we urgently need to change our approach to peace building by integrating the protection of nature at its core. In this panel, we are exploring how to make wars obsolete. I believe that recognizing ecocide as an international crime is a vital piece of that puzzle. We completely recognize and acknowledge that it isn't the only solution, but it is important. And I'm amazed listening to all of these different ideas today. It's just brilliant. But we cannot achieve lasting peace if we continue to destroy the very systems to sustain life. To sum up, when we safeguard nature, we reduce the drivers of conflict, we protect the foundations of peace, and we create conditions where both people and planet can thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. It's a very powerful message to which I cannot agree more. And yeah, I believe that's also how we looked at, and I believe the Global Peace Offensive initiative as well, look at this task of peace as multidimensional task. So it's not only about eradicating human conflicts, but looking at the fundamental roots and relationships between humans and non-human nature is an extremely important dimension in this. So thank you for your work. Let me turn now to last but not least, a very inspiring panelist, Darlene. You are the producer of Peace Channel, a media fully dedicated to peace, and also a co-founder of Global Peace Educational Network. So two very important initiatives that help the global society understand the importance of peace, learn about it, and bring cultural change. And from your many years of this important work, what do you see as moves that we need to undertake now?
With your permission, I'm going to show my slides for PowerPoint. Is that okay?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I want to say thank you so much for having me today. I appreciate the fact that you and Donato have invited me. And Pavel, I want to say that I know I'm dating myself, but Buckminster Fuller was actually the keynote speaker at my high school graduation in 1973. So I really appreciate you bringing forth his philosophy. At the Global Peace Education Network, we connect peace educators and communities, we advocate for peace education policies, and we showcase successful initiatives all around the world. I'm so happy again, Pavel, that you introduced your beautiful slides before. And I just wanted to point out that the regions of conflict in the world also look very similar to there's a lot of overlap between those areas of conflict and then those areas that are vulnerable to climate change. And we know that, with over 100 million displaced persons right now in the world, and at the rate that we are increasing in global temperature, by 2050, we could have as many as 70% more, or 70 million more people that are displaced. And of course, along with that comes increased conflict. I thought about, well, what's the source of conflict in most of these regions of the world? And although racism and intercultural hatred might be behind a lot of it, when we look at the resources that are involved at the local level, and I must say that my approach, especially with peace education approach, is that at the local level, we have to educate people about peace education and how it can enhance their life and more importantly, enhance their understanding of the multiple forces that are acting in their life. So, for example, like in Chad and the Sudan, we have a lot of oil. In the DRC, there's numerous minerals, gold, copper, both, and in Myanmar, we also have a lot of copper, gold, jewels. So if you look at all of the areas where these different minerals like cobalt and copper and lithium, especially, are natural resources, we see that there's continual conflict in those areas. So, when I was thinking about like what enhances human security and how can we make people feel more safe at the local level, I thought about these 5 factors that I think are important for new paradigms to embrace as integral to creating peace. And that is communication, connectivity, community, cooperation, and a local focus again for communications, having information, having truth telling. In other words, have facts as imperative to dialogue, having accurate information, as so many of you have mentioned already about artificial intelligence and how it's distorting our methods of communication and understanding in the world, having timely information and free information for people all over, even though they might have poverty circumstances. Then connectivity, what does that mean? Having the awareness that isolation is not healthy. It doesn't produce security, especially in today's world of interrelationships. So there's safety in numbers, building the importance of community, having technology available, having internet access available, especially in the global south and especially like in Africa where there's 35 conflict regions in Africa, and having improved internet access and infrastructure, having roads, having buildings, these and sewage systems, all things that support basic life to create a healthy system at the local level and that can allow people to foster growth and health. Community, the shared values, beliefs, and priorities. So many of you have mentioned the importance of culture, and I would bring up interfaith communication and initiatives are important here. Faith is one of the primary drivers of culture and how people relate to their world, to their family, to the world, to their community. And so I believe that interfaith initiatives are critical to helping people understand their shared belief system, their shared culture, even food. Sometimes people can have conflict and certain areas have conflict, but they share diet in many ways. So looking at that and arts, of course, as important transducers of healthy looking at community and how we can live in peace, as you said, coexistence. And then finally, sharing and mutually beneficial exchanges, the importance of parity. You had said about the like what this question about how do we make war obsolete? And you gave us these four areas: governance, culture, economy, and technology. So I was just thinking that, term limits, we talked about this in the United States, of course, but having term limits for politicians would be a great systemic change. Having anti corruption laws, conflict of interest disclosure, evaluations of politicians that go beyond just elections, transparency for culture, recognizing the interconnectedness of people as well as systems and our relationship with nature, having equality and parity becoming an increased value, right relations, right thought, right speech, right behavior, intercultural awareness and education, interfaith initiatives, again, recognizing those common belief systems, multilinguality. Like one of the disadvantages in the United States is that we don't necessarily, as a culture, value learning other languages. And that's an important part of creating peace, is what just simply being able to understand one another. In terms of economy, positive peace. People have mentioned the positive peace framework. Then having the peace index as a value in our economy. Knowing that for every dollar spent on peace, you have a $16 return. Having corporations to approach their peace, their profit motives differently, and understanding that there can be profit and parity with a peace environment. Then having fairness as a cultural value in our economies. Technology, having equal access, renewable resources, regional resource development, again, going to the idea of local emphasis on peace education. How do we teach our children about these things? Well, we have to start very young, basically creating a new culture for child development in which we emphasize the connectivity of life, global citizenship, and all that it entails, including sustainability, which is so important, understanding our relationship with Mother Earth. And then teaching peace skills from a very young age. What's the importance of mindfulness? And what does it mean to feel equanimity, sense of balance? And what is human fulfillment beyond material gain? What does it mean as a human being? Equality, sharing, compassion, having these values to be more important, especially with sharing and going back to the theme of natural resources and relationship with the environment. Right relationship, again, interconnectedness. And then with young people, empowering young people by having, and someone has said this already as well, integrating peace education into our school systems, global citizenship as a requirement of curriculum for both personal and social development. And then peace education requirements specifically, we have the model of the National Peace Academy, which is personal peace. Someone mentioned that as well, the importance of knowing oneself and how one can connect with personal peace. And then from that, the outgrowth into the social realm, friends, family, community, and then the political realm, and then institutional realm, and institutionalizing peace, the concepts of peace, the culture of peace, and then finally, ecological peace, understanding our relationship with Mother Earth and appreciating it, and emphasizing the importance of that. And then I think that if we could do all of that, then we can end war before it ends us, as Buckminster Fuller had said. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Darlene. Very comprehensive framework that you offer us, which I think continues also on the line of work that Donato and Peaceful Futures initiatives are carrying forward. So thank you very much. I see a lot of alignment and a lot of inspiration also to enrich each other approaches. Donato, you wanted to comment something?
Well, it would be hard even to consider to sum up the wealth of knowledge and ideas that just came out. I mean, I think we have also some interventions probably from people who are attending this workshop who are not among the official speakers, but we want to hear from them as well. I think that maybe there are some words that I want to reposition in terms of really the essentials, essentials that I believe are coming out of this discussion in terms of making war obsolete. First of all, I think the word that we did not abuse this time, but it is critical, is youth. I mean, is young people, engagement of young people, whether is empowering or participation. I think is access primarily, in my opinion, that needs to be given. Young people are capable of empowering themselves, but they need access. If they are prevented from having access, they cannot change or they cannot try to change reality. They are very conscious of the state of play, of the situation in the planet in general, and in their communities as well. I think there is a level of consciousness among young people nowadays that surpasses probably previous generations, certainly my own. But the need for people to express themselves and also use the right tools, the intergenerational also communication that is required, that I think needs also to be fostered at all times. I mean, what we need to pass on is also our experience. So the possibility of having this exchange, this mutual exchange, without the sense of anxiety and hatred, I think, and sense of guilt. Let me say that it's also very important. We are well aware of the responsibilities of previous generations, and that cannot be forgotten in history in general, but also in our recent history. But we also need to look beyond. We need to take a stance in which we understand what are the solutions to our problems. That's why in the peace offensive, as Luca has pointed out clearly, we want to focus on the solution oriented ideas. We do not have necessarily the solutions, but if we do not discuss among the solutions, if we do not discuss about the options, if we do not put at the disposal of the younger generations what is our experience and what are the tools, I mean, obviously we will never come up with a better way of doing things. So the culture of peace needs to be nurtured at all levels. All the generations have a responsibility, of course, in order to have a stronger culture of peace, because we are in many cases the teachers, we are in many cases those who still retain the power as well. So we have to make that available. We have to make our knowledge available, and also make other parts of the society co-responsible. The media, the religious leaders, the scientists in general, philosophers, you name the all categories that can contribute to shaping a better selves, better humans. And that is primarily about mutual understanding. So if we do not cultivate human understanding and values, obviously nothing else is possible. So I believe that this is an essential wall that should come out. But also what Darlene pointed out in terms of communities, connectivity, cooperation, local focus. I think, again, the local focus, the issue driven focus is essential. We should not leave everything in a vacuum. We need really to focus on reality. Reality is on the ground. The other point that I think we have discussed, and also Peace Monica pointed out clearly, is the risk of violence recurrence at all levels. And if we do not have the sometimes we call them best practices. I don't think that is the correct nomenclature or term. The correct term probably is examples. Are more of, again, experiences, because we don't know what is applicable in one place or in another place. We need to, everything has to be, again, situated in a different reality, in a different situation. But the urgency that we have is really to change the mentality, and to, in order to make war obsolete, we need really to change the mentality, and there is really a way to do that. There is to work in terms of common interest. So the common interest is, for all of us, uh, our family, our needs to be taken care of, the health, the possibility of having a decent life, and employ ourselves in something that is dignified. And so I believe that this is a bit the essence of our common debate. There are various tools, and I think, again, you reminded us that through this atlas we can look into. So many is a sort of repository of knowledge in many ways. So this knowledge, in any case, has to be expanded, has to circulate, and young people, what do they ask from us is, again, I repeat, access, the possibility of asking the right question, because also they have to learn how to ask questions. In many cases, there is a difficulty in even expressing your own needs, his own needs, their own needs in among people. In fact, they don't know really what to ask. This is a very somber definition of what the problem is. The fact that we do not know what to expect from the future. But we need to have all the instruments at the disposal of humanity for a better future. So this is a bit in my opinion, the essence of a culture of peace, the fact that we need to be interconnected and work towards a problem solving approach, localized but also general, because the same problems that we have at local level also have a repercussion at global level, as we all know. So, Pavel, maybe you want to animate this debate with. I know that we have several colleagues. We have David. We have two Davids, actually, David Weinberg, David Newman, who I can see, and you have Oliver Brechard, who is also raised his hands, and maybe he wants to take the floor next. Olivier, may I give the floor to Oliver, who is right there? Olivier, can you hear us?
Yes, for sure. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you all. Donata will build on the last point about youth, but thank you, Pavel, for the thought leadership in this role. I have quite a few colleagues with me, Shahab and Gail and Annalena and Lyubov, so that's good to be here. Very pleased to be here with
All
Pete.
from Learning Planet Institute, actually, yeah?
Also to see Peace here, because she's a partner from 1 year now already in this Peaceful Future program. So very quickly, I think starting, we are always looking at the Learning Planet Institute about what the youth need. And there's a huge global mental health and health crisis for the young people, which is not often addressed. And we often talk about the climate crisis, the wars, many other dimensions, but this is something which is so big. And in fact, we see that many young people are feeling eco-anxiety, are very ill in many different ways, but most of them would like to play a role for a better world. They don't know how, they don't feel empowered. So that's the very big challenge that we are trying to address. And on this, we're working on a Learning Planet Academy program, which is supported by UNESCO and many other players, but many players on the ground, where we want to help young people feel empowered, get the skills, the capabilities needed for 3 dimensions: the well-being, the inner well-being, the ability to live well with others, and peace building, conflict resolution, democracy as part of it. And the 3rd dimension, and they are interrelated, is around climate action. So, and I think, Pavel, when we started working together 10 years ago, but on this program 2 years ago already, It's really how can we help train the next generation of young peace builders everywhere. And this needs to bring in some of the best thought leaders. So we're working with Cambridge, with a UNESCO chair in Innsbruck for peace education, MGIEP in India, many other players. And we're very happy to join forces with you. And it's also working with partners on the ground. So we have networks like M in 52 countries, Masterpiece in 45 countries, Monique Peace in Uganda, Fundación Misangre, because in Colombia, because this is the way we can reach out to young people in their communities who are already trying, are already fighting for peace, but how can we bring additional skills on foresight, on conflict resolution, on many different dimensions to really equip them with the skills that is needed. I'm not going to talk too long. I think by doing this, by doing this partnership with on-the-ground players, that's how the idea of the Atlas came. Well, these practices, these examples exist. Let's share them. And one of our priorities in the near future will be to bring more and more in this atlas, which is not definitive. The Global Student Forum, which represents all students worldwide, is interested and in signing a partnership with us. But we also discussed last week in New York, and we had started before with networks like the World Scouts, 70 million young people. Peace is their priority. How do we bring in these young youth movements into the atlas, document what they do also, and be sure that we can play a role with them. And maybe my last part is everything we do with thought leaders, with on-the-ground players, with the youth and organizations like Peace. We want to make sure that there's recognition and incentive. It's not the only thing that is needed, but collaboration with UN Youth Office, collaboration with Club of Rome. They have a No Limits to Hope program which has been launched, and we are a partner of this one. Maybe a last one, OECD, which is another organization yet, is trying to shift the purpose of education towards education for human flourishing. And we started collaborating with countries and with a network of players. So this education part across many different dimensions is essential. And it's great that we can join forces also with a global peace offensive. So thank you for having me. I stop there. I would love to share much more, but thank you.
Thank you, Olivier. Thanks a lot. Yes, we definitely want to partner with you. We have many ideas of programs that we are nurturing these days, where we are looking for solid partners as yourself, also for projects, appeals, and OECD also is an excellent partner that we should bring into the fold. I see that there are other people that have raised their hands. Those who want to speak, we would appreciate if they can turn on their camera. That helps. In fact, I see Adler Young, who maybe wants to introduce himself briefly and make a short intervention. Adler?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for the wonderful session. I'm a Taiwanese working in a nonprofit and education field. I also see an old acquaintance, Cesar, who's doing a wonderful job in maker education in Hong Kong. With this background, as a Taiwanese, I believe many of you can imagine what I like to bring up. That I truly admire and agree with all the presentations and the wisdoms that you've shared. But I see that from what I've heard, seems like the work of your context seems to be more in an EU or Global South context. That, for example, in EU, democratic check and balance is possible, or in Global South, the situation seems to be more in a civil war context. But however, I think for the situation in Taiwan, I'd love to hear your wisdom, lend your wisdom for gaining some insights of addressing our dilemma of the dilemma between deterrence and dialogue. That we are facing a very difficult situation of polarization. That the deterrence approach and tightened security approach, it's being viewed by the opposite as increasing arms race. And indeed, with this deterrence approach, that we are seeing tightened tensions and losing common ground with China, and also increase in incompatibility, and also increase opaqueness. as a nonprofit worker. Although I love Hong Kong and I used to visit China very often, it becomes very difficult and also very risky to visit there anymore, which is a shame. And however, on the other side, the dialogue approach is viewed as appeasement and frog boiling. And indeed, there are many signs that infiltration is happening, that many immigrants from mainland China are creating incidents in Taiwan, for example, using social media to call for a military unification. And also, we are seeing every day, for example, the cutting of undersea cables around Taiwan, and also the very frequent military drills that's surrounding Taiwan. However, so basically,
Let me come in here. Adler, I appreciate very much your viewpoint. I have to stop you because we don't have much
yeah,
time. I want to
understand.
answer briefly to your right question. I mean, first of all, do we have only a northern view of problems? I mean, or do we have, in this regard, the global south? Certainly not. We are all talking of global initiatives, and when I said at the beginning, we will start from where the opportunity is. It means that we count on productive people, on the goodwill of people that want to come together. So wherever they are, we are there to facilitate their work. And this is what the essence of the Global Peace Offensive is all about. I'm not making any comment on any particular situation, whether it's Taiwan or any other place. I can say to you that we are talking about dialogue and not deterrence. So deterrence is a completely different ballgame in our case. We are talking of dialogue, genuine dialogue, of course, and we are conscious of the risks that are part of the social media world. I mean, so we live with social media, we cannot do without it, but it is certainly a double-edged sword. So we need to know what the risks are. We need to appraise also the genuine content of what the social media is in order to support peace efforts. So all we can say to you and friends all over the world is that we need genuine contributors. We need people who are really interested in peace and want to find solutions. So thank you for being with us, and thank you for following the initiatives that today we are one way or another not necessarily presenting but talking about. Thank you for
Yeah.
being with us. I would pass the floor to David Newman. David, please introduce yourself, just a word and a quick intervention.
Yeah, I'm going to be very quick. I'm David Newman, retired lawyer, retired legislator, retired cabinet minister from Manitoba, Canada. I have chosen Rotary International and faith groups as the way forward to implement the kinds of approaches you are inspiring and facilitating, which I agree with 100%. Everybody has said what I agree with. But let me just list what I believe you should build into an alliance with you. An alliance which I have evolved over the last 22 years in this center of Turtle Island. First, Rotary International, local to global. In the club constitution for 46,000 clubs around the world, our district actually changed the constitution by democratic action within Rotary to add the word positive before peace in the avenues of service of youth, community, and international. That took years of work, but was implemented several years ago. So now every club in the world, both Rotary and Rotaract, has an obligation, a responsibility to advance positive peace in their communities, amongst youth, and internationally. The second point I make is Indigenous peoples. I was once responsible for Indigenous peoples in Manitoba as a cabinet minister. But ever since, I'm now involved with, I'm on the board of what is called Honoring Indigenous Peoples, a national charitable organization in Canada, which is modeling the way forward for working together, Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. So Indigenous peoples around the world think what's happened, Truth and Reconciliation in Canada, and think what's happening in Brazil. So we work closely with what's happening in Canada, what's happening in Brazil, and this can be world-changing as the Indigenous peoples in our two countries are emerging and being given an opportunity like never before.
Let me
values can
stop you
change the
here,
world.
David.
Okay.
David,
Yeah.
I'm very sorry. We cannot go much farther. You've made already two very important points.
Okay, I'll make another
comment
one.
on. If you have
UNESCO
another one,
Global
you can add.
Campaign
But
for Peace Education. Global Campaign for Peace Education. In 2023, they updated the 1972 curricula for peace education around the world.
yeah,
And it was approved by UNESCO, I believe,
that's right.
193 countries. So embrace them. Thank you very much.
All 3 points are well taken. The Rotaries and Positive Peace is part of our peace offensive, the signatory to the peace offensive. Indigenous people as well. We have a very powerful organization representing Indigenous people that signed up. And of course, peace education, it's the foundation of our work. So we certainly take that into account. I would like to have a few words from Julie Tiarkin, who is there. I can hear. She's there. Am I right? Am I saying the last
Yes.
name correctly? Please.
Yes, thank you. I'm really grateful to be here, just to hear all these wonderful perspectives. I'm a retired school teacher. I work now with World System Solutions, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting humanity in co-creating a healthy, peaceful future in harmony with all living species and the planet. Part of my work involves interacting with many communities, one of which is the youth by youth community. And I guess what I observe is there are thriving youth communities. And then I look at the average age of the people in this room. And why the division? I have to wonder if democratic education, right-centric education might offer a solution to that. Why aren't these conversations integrated always? And I'm very open to hearing anyone's perspectives on that.
I will leave the answer to your question to Pavel as he concludes this seminar. But before giving the floor to him, maybe David Weinberg, who's also listening and participated to our seminar, wants to say a word. David from GCPN, if you want to come in, please. Do you hear me?
Yes. Thank you so much, Donato. And thanks to all of you. A couple of things I would say. We've heard a lot about partnership and interconnectivity and the need for cooperation. So I would invite everyone here to join us at the Global Peace Education Network, and let me also express our willingness to join you in partnership. It's only together in these partnerships, collaborating with one another, that we're going to be able to make a change. I'm a lawyer by training and education, and one thing that I learned in litigation was that wrongdoers, people who know they're wrong, who know they're breaking the law and are doing it for their own selfish purposes, they have their story straight. They know how to communicate. They organize their story and they tell it over and over and over again. And those of us who are honest, who are on the side of justice, who are trying to do right, we don't do that because we think we're right. We think we're on the side of the angels. We don't have to prepare. There was a Roman general, you've probably heard, Vegetius, I think is his name, and he said, if you want peace, prepare for war. It makes no sense at all. That's like saying if you want to eat, prepare to starve. We do not teach each other. We've heard this from every single speaker here, but I can't emphasize it enough. We do not teach ourselves the basic skills of peace. In a lot of countries, we have people don't you say in peace education, and people like glaze over, their mind goes blank. They don't know what we're talking about. If you say driver's education, everyone knows what it means. But we don't toss teenagers the keys to a car, because what would they do? They destroy lives, they destroy property, they destroy themselves. But we toss our leaders the keys to our countries and to our lives with no training whatsoever. And so we all need, many of us here are educators. We know how to teach, we know how to share skills. We need to cooperate with one another. We need to get our story straight, and we need to make sure that, starting with our generation and working from there, that we do everything we can to promote peace building skills. So please
Absolutely,
join
David.
us and we'll join you.
We agree with you 100%. And at this point, I give the floor back to Pavel. Maybe some of our official speakers or invitees want also to say something more. I'm referring in particular to, we have with us still, I can see Darlene and Luca and Janani and Jody and of course, Peace, Monica. If they want to add a word before Pavel concludes, in any case, Pavel, you are moderating the session until the end.
Well, yes, we are about to wrap up. But maybe what I would like to invite you to share also, when you think about points that have been raised, one of them is the importance of intergenerational dialogue and having more young people in the room in conversations like this, or maybe framing conversations in a way that more young people want to be in the room, which I think can be one of repellents. Let's say it's an adult or senior people kind of talk that is not very invitational to young people always to listen to panels like this. And I think often young people want more action and want more practice, which I think we can deliver. I think we also do a lot of that. So I'll be happy to structure one of next conversation in this space as truly an intergenerational dialogue with some collaborators. So what's your opinion? Where do you think we need to look to, especially supporting the next generation of peace builders? Maybe brief 1 minute statements for whoever wants to contribute from the panel, just to wrap up our conversation today.
Can I say something? Oh,
yeah, please go ahead.
just briefly, we have an amazing Youth for Ecocide Law network and a Student Ambassadors network, and they're amazing. But I think it's really important not to keep them in just in sort of silos of youth. So we also have some young, in one of our really senior positions, and she's only in her mid-20s, but she's amazing, is one of our leading diplomatic people at the UN. And we shouldn't put people, just because they're youth, we shouldn't put them in that bracket. It's really important to bring them up. Have youth on your board, have really articulate youth in senior positions, because they can do it with support. So don't keep them in the youth silo is my thing.
Absolutely, no silos. I can see a face, let me come in here, because I see a young face, Paigey. Paigey, is that the right name? Would you like to come in? Paigey? No, she disappeared.
She's here, she's here.
Hello?
There, would you like to say something about this point that Pavel is asking? How do you think we should include more voices of youth in our debates and deliberations?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for inviting me to share on this. I think it is like a point that has been brought up in many of the interventions today. Having peace dialogue embedded in education is so important. I think it's something that tends to be outside of the educational space, especially in the university context in my experience. And so I think if we can just do anything to encourage educators of all levels and even within administrations of organizations to include peace in the very foundation of our organizations, because positive peace must be systemic. It must not just be an individual practice, but also a collective one, including all of the structures of our organizations. And so I guess bringing that point to how we can better engage youth in these sorts of conversations, I think, yeah, just having more opportunities for youth to discuss amongst ourselves, not to put us in a silo, but also, yeah, just finding more channels of communication that people resonate with, and also multilinguifying this conversation, as we've only been really speaking in English today. I think that's super important. So those are some things that come to mind. So yeah, I hope that's helpful.
I subscribe to all you say, Paige, and we be very happy to have you among our strongholds of peace in all our procedures and new initiatives. Thank you. Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for coming in.
Let's hear out. Thank you very much, Paige, and I completely agree as well. And I would like to invite Peace, Monica, your opinion on this topic, since you also directly work with a lot of young people and you're a young leader yourself.
Thank you so much, Pavel. And yes, this is really very important. And we cannot just only stop with engaging the young people at the different platforms, but also how do they co-design these tools. And I think it's really very evident in the Atlas that we've just launched, and seeing how young people are coming up with amazing solutions. However, the conversation on intergenerational dialogues is something that we cannot push to the side. You know, oftentimes young people, I would call it a political narrative, where they do say that young people are not organized, young people do not know what they want. We know what we want, and it's time for us to shape up these conversations. And I'll just give you an example of like the National Youth Action Plan on Youth Peace and Security in Uganda. We were reached out to by the Ministry of Gender in Uganda to co-design this process. But so it just makes me also reflect on how much equipped are we, how much are we equipping the young people that we do work with? Are we just bringing them onto the panel discussions without grooming them? But also, what role does social media play for young people? If we can do packaging of peace education in short clips that can be played on TikTok, you can imagine how many young people are going to get onto those platforms. But also, as we do design those solutions for the young people who can access the online content, can we also think about the young people that are at the grassroots, where they do not have connectivity and they cannot get onto this space? But also basically looking at young people as a group that is diverse, so that when we're getting these young people in these rooms, in these conversations, can we have them co-design these solutions? And then can we have that intergenerational conversation on what the young people bring on board, but also learning from the people that walked the journey before us? Thank you.
Thank you, Peace. Janani?
How can we create better leaders was a question that you raised, Pavel. I believe a powerful way to do that, as well as empower youth, is right education, a values-based, transdisciplinary, and interactive education that shows them the practical value of global cooperation is the long-term solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Luca? You're muted, I think.
Thank you. Just a short thought. Inclusion of young people is probably not really enough. You know, if we just invite the youth to, let's say, rubber stamp projects that we are leading, that doesn't make much sense. What needs to be done is to give hope, give encouragement, give platforms, and then step back. So just a thought.
Cannot agree more. Thank you very much. Darlene, would you like to say a couple of words?
I think it's been a wonderful discussion today, and I agree with everything that's been said. It's really been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I would like to thank everyone. We ran a little bit over time, but I think it was worth it. It was very rich conversation and truly inspiring. And I can see that it is also an invitation space. So for all of us interested in working on these themes, you are invited to collaborate, and we are open to collaborate. So David mentioned the readiness of Global Peace Education Network to step up and support initiatives. Donata mentioned the Global Peace Offensive Center and Peaceful Futures Initiative, and Atlas of Peaceful Futures Practices is also there as a tool. So we see all of these spaces as living organisms. They are not, let's say, nothing is set in stone. It's an evolving entity, and entities in service of the ultimate goal of transition to peace-based civilization, to peaceful futures, where we can really learn how to live differently, how to evolve our culture towards a more harmonious ways of being. And I genuinely believe it's possible. I act on the premise that it's not a fantasy, it's not a utopia, it's a task. It's a task for us to accomplish. So let's see what we can do together in collaboration with each other, supporting each other. And thank you those who offered their help. David, I would be glad to reach out, David Newman, to talk about the work with Rotary. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for your attention, also listeners, and your contributions when you spoke. Donato?
Thank you, Pavel. It was a pleasure.
Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you to World Academy for holding the space for us.
Thanks a
So
lot.
see you soon. Let's